you've worked with decades of students. Like, what sort
Yeah.
of mistakes do you see your students making all over and over again, and how would you recommend that they stop?
The number one thing that I find is that for I don't know where it comes from, but for some reason, a lot of my students, most of my students, have this attitude that originality is the most important thing.
Mhm.
That when they're learning how to draw, it's about originality. It's about doing things differently than other people. And and as far as I can tell, that has meant that it really slows their progress. It's super important that drawing, painting, these things that we do, it is about personal expression. I get that fully, and I embrace that. But in the learning process, I think it's just so important that you learn just basic fundamentals.
Mhm.
How to make marks effectively, how to develop tone effectively, how to just, draw trees in a convincing way, how to represent shadows in a convincing way. There are sort of conventional ways of representing things with different materials like pencil or pen or watercolor. And
Mhm.
then learning those conventions and really embracing them and making it, Sherry was talking about doing scales musically,
Mhm.
developing muscle memory for an ability to do things to represent the world in a way that you don't have to think about every time you put pen to paper. So once you've done that, and once you've learned a lot of different fundamental skills from a wide variety of sources, I think that's
Mhm.
kind of critical. Like if you're only
Mhm.
looking at one person's work, your work is probably going to start looking like that person's work.
Right.
But if
Yeah.
you're looking at a lot of people's work, then
Mhm.
your work will become your own. You will have your own
Mhm.
visual voice
Mhm.
that is sourced
Absolutely.
from a lot of really skilled people. It's like learning music. You learn to play by listening to other people who you like listening to. You don't learn to play by listening to people that you don't like to listen to. So over time, your work starts to exhibit a uniqueness that is yours,
Mhm.
but that is informed by skills, by fundamentals, and I think that's something that a lot of students kind of skip over. They want to speak with their own voice right away,
Mhm. Right.
but but their work doesn't have fundamentals that they don't have a
Yeah.
vocabulary to work with yet.
I really like that analogy. Yes, the sketching vocabulary and the
Yeah,
fundamentals. So I'm so glad we have you on because I think that's something that a lot of sketches try. Like, oh, I want to draw like Lapano, I want to draw paint like Shari or something like that, but they don't have those basic skills yet.
right.
So, but what advice would you give for someone who's been at it a little bit and they might be stuck in a rut, for instance, and they just don't know how to improve? What would you suggest for someone in that situation?
Well, I'll echo what Sherry said, certainly, and what I think a lot of people are doing, which is just to do something different, to try a different technique, a different material, a different subject, just to kind of break out of that sort of rut.
Mhm.
But I find myself that going back and kind of refocusing on fundamentals. Um, Often makes me feel a different sense of ability and confidence about things. And too often I don't do that. And so I find myself in situations where I wish I could draw in a particular way, but I'm rusty, as Sherry said earlier. Uh, that happens to me a lot because I don't draw people very often, at least not kind of at close range, sort of portrait people drawings. I do figure drawing as much as I can, but
Mhm.
mainly I'm drawing buildings and urban spaces. And then at symposiums, I find myself at the dinner table with a bunch of people who are really good at drawing other people, and I'm shitty at it. And so that I need to practice that more. And so if I am conscious about where I need work, I can focus on that and do it.